welcome in to the PHNX Suns podcast, brought to you by the DraftKings Sportsbook app, America's #1 sportsbook app. Don't forget to hit that like button, subscribe wherever you get your podcast, and leave us a 5-star review. I'm Lindsay Smith here with Saul Bookman and Espo. Gerald Bourguet is out on assignment today and will hopefully bring us some really cool stuff from JaVale McGee's event out with the D-backs this afternoon.
Jug Life softball tournament, I believe.
So hopefully we'll have some news from
I'm not making that up. It is.
Jug Life a sponsor?
Of us? No, but that's who's running the softball tournament.
What's their brand? Like, what do they do?
They're a charity.
It's a water charity to provide water.
Yeah. Hey.
I thought it had to do with like the Insane Clown Posse or something, but I did some research.
I thought it was a replacement for. Never mind. Okay.
Anyways, by the way, if you knew the Lindsay Smith we know off air, you'd be having quite the day. I'm excited for this show.
You'd be so happy.
It could be so spicy in here today.
So spicy. How you guys feeling? Are you ready for all of this conversation?
I think this is going to be a unique afternoon here on the program, both with the chat and with us in here. There's a lot to talk about, and the interwebs were quite angry about things
like
today.
When is it gonna stop? I feel like this has been nonstop since the minute we got bounced.
The only time it'll stop is when the Suns have a championship parade, and only on that day. Only on that day. Outside of that day, it's a beast that keeps feeding itself.
I mean,
it's a snake eating its own tail.
Yep.
All right, we got more DA rumors that hit the socials today.
I hear them every day.
More rumors.
Rumor has it.
Sometimes to get
so
away.
We had an article from Fox Sports say one league source is certain that Ayton will not be returning to Phoenix despite being a restricted free agent. He pointed to the Pistons as the likeliest landing spot, though a deal sending him to the Nets as part of a swap that moved Kyrie Irving to a third team was also thrown out as a possibility. The Pistons currently have $27.4 million in cap space, second only to the Orlando Magic that could open up as much as $47 million, which means Detroit could potentially make Ayton an offer that the Suns simply refuse to match.
Look, if it were like 30 league sources say, but when I hear one, that could be one guy that's getting, like we talked about, fed bad information. It is bullshit season. You got to remember that right now.
Yeah.
So that could be one guy getting one side of a story, to garner up interest. I mean, you got to remember, Bill Duffy, Ayton's agent, also wants to make sure that there's interest in his client because he needs to get him a max contract either agreed on with another team or convince the Suns that they need to pay that. So you need to make sure that there's interest and there's talk about him as well. So some of this it could be coming from that side.
It's all speculation. All of it. Nobody knows anything. We've confirmed that yesterday. It's doubled down today. Everybody's all over the place. Everybody has an inside source that says he is going to get traded. Everybody has an inside source that says he's not going to get traded. But I do know one thing.
Oh, boy. What is it, Saul?
There is one guy that is on his way to the Phoenix Suns. Roll the tape, Shane. Boomba it's Kevin Durant. Let's go. Hey, Kevin Durant, if you come to the Phoenix Suns, my friend, you and I will have a fantastic time getting blazed here in the Valley because I know you are very fond of the herb. And, hey, our friends at OG's, Shane, camera, our friends at OG's, I got you. You can have a lifetime supply, that is not confirmed, of OG's. I promise you. And, buddy, I will take them. You know what? I'll take one right now. There you go. There's a whole bag of it right here.
Pass the Dutchie, right?
There you go.
Hey,
look at have a good time, huh?
Did you see him with David Letterman talking about pot and how much he enjoys it? And David Letterman goes, "When was the last time you were high?" And he looks straight into the camera. He goes, "I'm high right now."
That's right, baby. And I'm gonna join you right now, KD. Come to Phoenix. We have no judgments here. You can smoke all the weed you want as long as you drop 40 a night. Nobody's gonna give a shit.
Look, we'll get you your own strain if you want that. Whatever you need, we'll make it happen, right?
I mean, Josh Hunt in the chat already has a name for you, the Rasta Reaper.
Hey-o.
Let's go. Let's go. That OG Kush. Let's go.
I mean, you could come up with your own limited edition flavor. We've already got an in for you at OG's. We could hook it up with you there.
There it is.
Which one did you guys just have? The pina colada?
Pina colada.
Pina colada.
How exciting. That's their limited edition seasonal flavor that's out right now. Perfect pineapple and creamy coconut blend just in time for all your summer activities. Also, KD, if you come to Phoenix this week, you could join OGs and the PHNX crew out at the Maya Day Club.
Let's not scare them away.
No. That is an open invite. Okay.
Hey, you can see Saul and Johnny and Shane in swimsuits.
I'm gonna
I
say,
was trying to be nice to the PHNX crew, but more it was like, hey, Old Town, we know you love that place.
Okay, there you go.
There are literally going to be hundreds of people out there that do not look like me. And I promise you, it is a much better scene than just me. If you are looking at me the entire time, or Espo for that matter, you have a problem. There is much better things to look at. I promise you that.
Shane, behind the Mac, if you bring this, if you try to sell yourself as looking okay, you look like an Oreo missing the top piece.
But when I take my shirt off, it's distracting because of how great my dad bod is.
Oh yeah.
Don't let me in with the rest of the crew.
What's paler,
That's
the top
not
of
a
your
dad bod? Dad bod is this right here, baby.
Get on camera, Shane. What is paler, the top of your head or you without a shirt on?
Oh my gosh.
Not the face.
Oh my god. He looks like the male version of Cruella DeVille.
Oh no.
Don't bring your dogs to the pool party.
Well,
Looks like if Ellen DeGeneres was a man.
I'm uncomfortable, so I'm going to tell you guys one more time that the pool party is on June 25th. If you go, I hope you have fun. I'm not going to be there.
Oh.
Sorry, but I think these guys will be a boatload of fun, arguing about whose dad bod is best and whose hair is best. So you should come join the conversation. Or you could just check out OGs online at ogsbrands.com or on Instagram at ogsbrands. You can also find their products at your local dispensary. But just a reminder, you have to be 21 years or older to purchase, okay?
Josh saying, don't know how anyone could take their eyes off of Saul's immaculate shins.
It's true.
Yes, it is.
Super sexy.
Keep those pant legs down. Nobody can concentrate.
All right, let's reel it back into some real news here. So, DraftKings Sportsbook, Saul called in some favors last week. We got odds put up on DA's next landing spot. Since they went live, the Phoenix Suns were a plus 350 for DA. It was the lowest odds of all of them. They changed today to a plus 100, which means the odds got better in terms of the odds of him landing here in Phoenix next year. It just made that move that they adjusted.
Listen, Vegas doesn't move stuff, and DraftKings ain't moving stuff unless they have some pretty good information. For it to jump, it went from I think 350 to now 100 in a week. That's a pretty significant jump. So
I know why. They talked to DA's tattoo artist.
Well, I mean, honestly, though, you could say, because everyone's got sources, so why wouldn't DraftKings also have sources behind the scenes? They're just not tweeting them out. They're using them to help adjust their odds, right?
Course.
So I guess the question is whose source do you believe the most? ESPN, Fox Sports, Bleacher Report, or DraftKings? Or Gladys.
Gladys is the leader in the clubhouse. But look, I trust the people that got the money. That they're, I always trust Vegas understanding the intricacies of what's going on. Now, these could shift multiple times before we get to the point where a sign and trade can happen, but right now they obviously have something that's leading them to believe that the Suns are the favorite right now. But we know Vegas had the Suns as a favorite to win a championship, and that didn't happen. That's true. Things can change.
Yeah, but some things are out of the Suns' control.
Or, I mean, I don't know. This one's more a conspiracy theory, I think, but I don't really know what goes on behind the scenes when it comes to like sports betting. Could it also just be trying to encourage more people to take a bigger gamble on another team at better odds?
It could.
Maybe.
Because maybe everyone's just picking the Suns.
Yeah, if most of the money's going towards the Suns, of course, I think
Because that can move the odds too, right? If
True.
just more
Well,
people are placing bets on
As
that
the
particular one.
As the resident degenerate here,
Uh-huh.
there is no amount of money that can move it in one day from 350 to 100. That just does that's crazy. I mean,
Okay.
unless there's like multiple big dogs throwing millions of dollars on it, that's just so much money and so much shifting. I doubt that happened.
DeAndre putting money on himself. He's like, I know where I'm going. Shit.
I mean, that if you
mean-
were like best friends with an athlete, would you ask for like, hey,
Hell yeah.
hey, let me get
I'm pretty
some,
sure that's
some,
where you could get yourself in some trouble, though, at some point.
Insider trading?
Like,
does that count? In,
Like if I saw
sports
DA in the
bets? I don't
grocery
know.
store, I'm like, D, come on, man. Like for real.
I need to make some
Like,
scratch.
help me out, man. Let me pay for a trip for myself. Come on now.
I mean, I would too. Cheerson said we can't hear Shane when he talks. So,
Oh, well, that's a bonus.
but basically, so if you couldn't hear Shane, basically what he said, there is no amount of money realistically, unless you had a whole bunch of people drop millions of dollars in the last 24 hours, that would move the odds from 350 to 100. So that theory is basically, by Shane's standards, not possible. It's probably realistically more so the source side of things.
True.
Beside behind the scenes information. But if you want to get in on the action, download the DraftKings Sportsbook app right now and use promo code PHNX when you sign up. New customers can bet $5 on either NHL team to win their game and get $100 in free bets no matter what. That's code PHNX at DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the Stanley Cup Finals. You have to be 21 or older, Arizona only, new customers only, minimum $5 minimum deposit. Eligibility restrictions apply. See show notes for details.
Also, big time draft party tomorrow. With that being said, when we start at 4:45, you're going to want to get there ASAP because we will give you all of our picks for NBA draft night in terms of what to bet on, what not to bet on, what to stay away from, all the fun. So join us, please, at 4:45 sharp.
Yeah, and we'll have Shane's microphone working so you can get some good gambling advice as well. So,
all right. The next thing that hit social today was an
here
article
we go.
from ESPN that had a lot of things about James Jones and his approach to the draft. Now, I know we all have big feelings, but Espo, I think I'll give you the floor first to kind of give us the cliff notes first and then kind of start the conversation.
quite a long article, and the premise, I mean, you can tell from the headline, is basically the Phoenix Suns are going to win the draft by not caring about it because they have an approach that in the article they admit their big board, if they went through the process of making a big board, it would be 6 or 7 guys that they actually like. They're looking for value that can help right away, guys that aren't based on potential but can handle something, can handle winning and helping win now, right? So that's his approach. The article also talks about having only 14 scouts on staff. James talks about having a win now mentality, that's all he cares about, that you should always be in win now mode as a general manager, and you shouldn't be, he basically poo-poos the idea of a rebuild. You should never be going into that. Kind of talks a little bit about the OKC strategy, says, hey, good on them, but I wouldn't do it, is his approach, and shares his thoughts on all that. This caused a stir because people are like, well, how can you just ignore the draft? And I don't feel like he's saying he's ignoring the draft. I don't feel like that's the approach. Some people can read it that way, and I understand if that's the way you took it. But to me, people in industries are looking to be disruptors, right? They're looking for an advantage over competitors. What's one of the highest coveted, commodities right now in the NBA? Draft picks. We saw it with the Sixers and OKC. Even the Suns tried to go down that path. Teams have a very, very high value on draft picks. I think what James Jones is saying is, I'm okay dealing those if I can get commodities that are more proven than a guy I'm just basing potential. They even talked about you can't say the word potential in their meetings. Like, it's not allowed. They don't believe in looking at a guy's quote unquote potential. So I'm okay with this approach. I agree with the win now mentality. And I think what they're trying to do is, look, people value these draft picks. We'll use them as ways to get get guys. Landry Shamet. Obviously, people feel a certain way about Landry, but they were trying to get a guy that could come in and compete rather than a guy that with the 29th pick that it's like, okay, total crapshoot. They leverage draft capital to get CP3 as well. Like, I don't have a problem with what James Jones said. I'll let you guys weigh in, and I have some other thoughts, but where are you guys sitting on this?
The only problem I have is when you do miss, right? Listen, Jalen Smith wasn't even a twinkle in anybody's eye the year that he was picked. And there were some viable options there that you could have had to really supplant and help out what you ultimately had a need in, which is the backup point guard position in Tyrese Halliburton. When you miss on something like that, and you miss on Desmond Bane, and you draft somebody that's not even on the team anymore, that's when you start to get questioned about your decision-making in regards to this. Like, you have to do your due diligence, and this is where I would disagree a little bit with what James Jones's approach is you have to do your due diligence and understand what is out there and what the possibilities could be. You might fall in love with a guy, that's cool. You took a gamble on Cam Johnson, it worked out. You took a gamble on Jalen Smith, it didn't work out. To his point, though, and I will say this, with those two examples right there, you see how much of a crapshoot the NBA draft is. So why, in his mind, dedicate so many resources like the rest of the NBA does to having all of that, all those expenses and all that at your disposal when it's a gamble either way? I can kind of see both sides of this thing. I don't agree with it. I think you should always exhaust all your options, but this is a different way that he wants to approach it. And as the GM, he can make whatever decisions he wants.
I still think they're doing their due diligence on guys. It's not like they're just like, oh, screw it. They're just taking a different approach in the way that they're scouting guys too. They don't feel a game in November against lesser competition for a guy in the Pac-12 is going to show them what they need to know if he could compete at a higher level. So why have these guys on the road constantly for some of these meaningless games when you can watch a lot of it on film too, and they can be around the team and understand what Monty Williams is pushing in practice, what they're looking for. I don't mind a different mindset to it.
I don't mind a different approach as far as more virtual scouting, as far as like sending a guy over for basically the whole year to Europe or somewhere else. I get that perspective, but like, I do think you have to have at least a good amount of people who are watching these players so that you don't miss as big as you did with like the Jalen Smith pick, right? I think that's I think because of the time that we're in currently with Jalen Smith being basically just tossed off this year, in comparison to the other people that they passed on, it's like, well, maybe if you had put a little bit more time and emphasis in it, you would have gotten one of those players instead. And I'm just as a general thought, like, I'm not worried about this. Like, it's not something that's making me have a full-on meltdown. But at the same time, I understand the idea, because I think he wrote in the article, they said something like a pick is essentially a player. Mm-hmm. But different players can bring in more value than other players. So trading a number 12 pick or Devin was 13, right?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Trading a number 13 pick is completely different than trading Devin Booker 3 to 4 or 5 years into his career.
I get that, but their point is they're not ever going to be in the mentality to spend resources on trying to help a guy like Devin get to where he got, because what happened and how he got there in his case was playing on a lot of bad teams and getting a lot of minutes to be able to work shit out is what it came down to. And if you read the article, I feel like James is saying, that's not a path they're willing to go down with a young guy. Either you're ready to come in the league and contribute, or we're not going to sit here
so
and wait for potential. That's what this sounds like.
He doesn't.
That's what the organization mindset right now is. We're not gonna sit here and try to develop for 4 or 5 years. And you bring up if they had a bigger staff, maybe they wouldn't have swung and missed on Jalen Smith. Okay, there was a Suns GM that had 70 plus people on his staff. Lance Blanks.
This is fair.
He's a guy that wouldn't draft Kawhi Leonard with the 14th pick because the dude's sweating his suit. Like he had 70 plus
Okay,
people
but
in
that
his
sounds
basketball
like
ops.
that's a whole nother
but
can
look,
of beans that you could go into that are
But
problematic.
that's what the draft is like. Is it's these little things that they think, oh, I've got the advantage. I understand this guy because of this or that.
Well, then
And-
maybe that's the time to sit back and look in the mirror and become more self-aware of your bias.
But that's also the problem. Like, if we all remember the movie Moneyball, for those of you who haven't seen it, I'm sorry. It basically is a bunch of crusty old scouts sitting talking about can't miss prospects, or there's even a part of that scene where the guy literally says, well, he's got a hot girlfriend, so that's why he's got confidence because of that. Like that, how that somehow translates to him being a good ball player. Like there are GMs out there that think in weird fucking stupid ways, and you could have all the scouts in the world and all the information at your disposal. At the end of the day, it's up to one person to make that decision, and it's always a crapshoot. You don't know what's going to happen. Listen, half of us were completely wrong about DA, half of us were right. Half of us were, wanted Luka Doncic. Half of us wanted DA. Half of us are right. Like, and in hindsight, everybody's right because we all know that maybe Luka would have been the better option right now. But there's no way to know that in the moment. You just don't know. So, I get where James Jones is coming from. Like, why risk as many resources and money on a crapshoot if I'm not sold on any particular player? I think he goes more off of feel himself, and I think he watches some tape, I'm sure, and he gets these prospects in the door, and if he feels one, he's like, okay, I'm going to see if I can pull the trigger and get him. If not, no big deal. That's why he says 6 to 7 prospects typically are on their board, and that's about it.
Well, and look, we spent the decade before the James Jones era living in draft purgatory. It was always about potential. It was always about where can this guy get? How can we get in the top of the draft to get this kid who might be this? Mm-hmm. And it didn't get you anywhere. And there's so many teams that go through that, right? And look, Sam Presti is the guy that is like beloved by all the basement boys, the guys that are the stat nerds. Everybody loves Sam Presti, right? Look at what he's doing. He's so smart. He's breaking the game. He's basically loading up on the NBA version of scratch tickets, hoping he scratches off $1 million and wins. But you know what's happening right now? A lot of losses. They traded a lot of massively talented guys to try to acquire this ticket to try to win something. There's no proof that works either. You're hoping on hope that you get that guy.
Okay. OKC literally is probably the perfect picture of the good and the bad of this. They literally drafted 3 guys, and they all are going to be Hall of Famers in Kevin Durant, James Harden, and Russell Westbrook, and had them all on the team. And that lasted 1 season to the finals where they were all kind of at their peak, and then the whole thing fell apart. They traded away Harden. They traded away Kevin Durant, forced his way out as a free agent, and then Russell Westbrook, as we know, is not there anymore. Like, so there's a good and a bad side to all of this. Like, so I get where James Jones is coming from.
But you could also look at the Warriors and be like, look at what they did. They drafted majority of their team, they've got so many championships.
But then you could also look at the Miami Heat, who did not do that, and they got LeBron and they got Bosh to come in with D Wade, and they added all these pieces. James Jones being one of them, and he lived that situation, and I could see how he could be impressed by Pat Riley and company and how they put that together, and not really wanting to toil in misery waiting for development.
And you bring up the Warriors. That's the top of the mountain example, right?
So it can be done.
But look at all the bodies going all the way down the mountain that never got there that tried this. The Kings have tried this for like 2 decades now, and they're still suffering because of it.
Yeah, but the Kings are like, you can't even put them in the conversation because the Kings are like literally hurting themselves. They screw themselves over time and time again, so you can't blame the draft for their own mistakes.
Outside of Kobe, when have the Lakers ever done that? And they're one of the winningest franchises, right? Like there's examples on either side. What I like about it is James Jones is saying, I understand the draft is never going to be my strength at all, but I know how to, I believe I know how to pick guys and find talent in other ways. And right now, when you look at it, the 3 seasons he's been at the head of it, You saw massive progress, and it ain't no bubble run. A finals run, and then the best record in the NBA. And everybody's sour because we saw a massive collapse in round 2, but the process, his approach to it has been working. This offseason is what we're going to judge James Jones by, not some comments he made to ESPN about the way he looks at approaching things and how he doesn't value draft picks.
Which I was going to say, if James Jones can find a way to create like the Miami Heat big 3, if you will, here in Phoenix, then okay.
Kevin Durant.
You do whatever you got to do, boo. If you get KD here to play with Devin Booker and Chris Paul, I'll trust in you.
Look, I don't even need KD.
You, boo.
You get me a championship, however you get it. I don't care.
Exactly.
I don't care if you literally sell the draft picks for coupons to go eat at McDonald's. I don't give a shit what your approach is as long as you bring a title.
I mean, that's fair. I guess we'll find out here shortly.
Yeah, I mean, again, I'm okay with it, but the thing that James Jones that I don't love is that, okay, you drafted, in back-to-back years, you had 2 misses. Jalen Smith, and I'm going to say last year's pick 2, because you traded that for Landry Shamet, and he didn't do shit. And then you doubled down on that Landry Shamet sham, for lack of a better word, by giving him a deal that was unnecessary. It was just unnecessary. So, don't double down on your mistakes. And I feel like he got rid of Jalen Smith thinking that he was not going to be part of this future. Cool. And he got in return 2 pieces that ultimately didn't really contribute to this team. So you've got to be better than that if you're going to execute it at this level, because now instead of taking a flyer on a young player, hoping that maybe in a year or 2 or 3 they could find some success, you're taking a flyer on a veteran and then double downing, and they're equally as bad, if not worse.
But that's the key to any of these plans is you got to hit.
You got
to execute it.
And his plan seems like he thinks that it's more of a guarantee that he can find a veteran that can contribute because of obviously their track record of success than going with somebody that's never played in the NBA, which I do understand to a degree. But Landry Shamet would be the opposite of what that is.
Look, well, 1 year. All right. I get that. But to me, I look at this and the world is all about disruptors. Netflix looked at Blockbuster and said, yeah, that's the way it's done, right? But we're going to come in and try something different, right? We're going to approach this and try to find where the weakness is in the current model and exploit it. That's what you do, right? It's all around us, right? Even we're one of those. We're looking at the marketplace in traditional media and going, where can you exploit that? You find those areas and you try to hammer at it. And that's what I think James Jones is doing.
Do you really think this would be considered like a disruption?
Yes, because
you just pointed out to the Miami Heat doing it, the LA Lakers or Los Angeles Lakers doing it. Like if we have examples to pull from, then it's not
in the current NBA. I think it's more of a disruptor than the natural. And you're not doing it from an LA standpoint or Miami standpoint where it's an automatic free agency destination, right? So I think it's a unique approach that usually doesn't happen here.
There's some comments in the chat right now, which I think are pretty good.
Funny.
Some of them are really funny. I want to get to Kev real quick. He says, I feel like people don't give Shamet credit for what he did do. And did he do enough? Probably not, but he did come in and help in some clutch situations, and he also did help fire us up at times.
This is fair.
I just maybe
he was brought in to hit threes. He wound up hitting at the average he used.
Did he do enough to become, for all of us to be okay with the fact that he got an extension before he even played?
Leave the extension.
I think that's
leave
the
the
hard
extension part out of it.
But you can't because he did it before he even set foot on the court.
Hold on. But to me, if we're talking about what his strategy is, like this article talks about,
it's a good contract because it does help when down the road when you're trying to move him and match
not
salaries.
Just that. What you're looking at was the 29th pick going to provide you more than Landry Shamet did this year? And I think the answer is very unlikely that it would have. So that's the approach that he's talking about here. Can I get a guy that can provide more than what I'm going to get at that pick in this moment because it's win now time.
Rick James
Rick
says
James,
no
no,
because they
because
could have drafted Herb Jones.
Damn, that would have been nice.
But again,
This is the stuck between a rock and a hard place situation.
Freaking crapshoot. If they take, there's always a guy that everybody points to, right? When it's the second round or the end of the first. Look, this guy, and there's like 400 other guys that have been taken in that slot that never make it in the league.
But that's what I'm saying about kind of going back to, because there was one of the comments in this article that I feel like everyone lost their minds over was him talking about Devin and then how there were 50 other skeletons and maybe we wouldn't have taken Devin had I been here at that point in time. And I think that was what made everyone be like, WTF.
That
JJ.
quote was weird.
Like, WTF.
Okay, that one was weird. I'll give that.
But that's what I was saying in the beginning is that, you know, a number 13 draft pick is not as valuable as a Devin Booker.
But
and depends in the moment. If Devin Booker, if the Suns were trying to win a championship the year that they drafted Devin Booker, right? And that was the main goal that year, a veteran would have been more valuable than Devin Booker in that situation because Book didn't even play. People forget he didn't even play the first half of the year because Hornacek didn't have enough trust in him to put him on the court. They go into full tank mode and they're just playing young guys and Booker comes in and scores a lot. He never would have made it on the court if you're actually in win now mode, which is James Jones' mindset. That's the part of this that I don't think people are really thinking through is, does that pick in the current moment help you more than the guy you could potentially add to the roster?
And that's what James Jones is saying is like, listen, Devin Booker would not play on this year's Suns team if he was the third as a rookie. He just wouldn't. Like they need other contributor parts rather than what they have right now. And so he's saying, you know, of course, the time he got to the Suns, Devin Booker had gone through a lot of that bullshit. He's worked out a lot of those things, some of his flaws. You get a good coach and you got a good GM in the fold, and now things start to pick up and you're on an upward trend as opposed to what the Suns really were for the longest time, which is just a laughingstock for basically a decade. And Booker was really the beneficiary of such shitty teams and such poor draft picks from the previous regime. You know, everybody wants to talk about Ryan McDonough. You know, he had 3 solid picks in DeAndre Ayton, Mikal Bridges, and Book.
Yes.
Outside of that, there were some horrendous misses.
Well, look, and we've all heard it, and I reported this on the old show. Mikal wasn't his pick. He had a trade lined up for Shai Gilgeous-Alexander that he wanted to pull the trigger on and was told no, and that they had to make a deal work for Mikal Bridges. So giving him credit on that one's even difficult, although Shai Gilgeous-Alexander would have been a hit too.
Yeah.
But,
Okay, so my question is then, how much longevity does this mentality or this approach have realistically? If you say, we want to win now, so we're not going to mess around with the draft really at all. Maybe 20% of our energy goes to the draft. And you don't get another superstar on your team like KD, and we run it back with all the same players we have now with messing around on the fringes. How long do you think we can be successful, and or is that enough to win a championship?
I think you find out this offseason, because if you get an answer to your backup point guard position, then that window can be open longer, especially if it's a guy that could replace CP3. Look, I think this is sustainable for a long period of time if you make the right moves, 60, 70% of the time, right? But that's tough. That Pat Riley always hit like that. The Lakers had the benefit of everybody wants to play in LA.
Yeah.
What's the Suns' advantage? How do you convince people to come to Phoenix other than Saul offering them pot?
And Miami is also like LA. A lot of people want to go live in Miami. So two of the top teams that we look to as examples, we are not that.
But I would argue that Phoenix in the winter is like that. The only problem is your owner like that. Like the difference between Miami and LA is they have no problem throwing a lot of money
at a blank check.
Basically,
do what you
know what I mean?
do.
Like, and every time you hear a rumor about, oh, the Lakers are going to go after LeBron. Oh, the Lakers are going to go after Westbrook. Or, oh, they're going to, like, they usually come through on it because they're just shrewd like that and they're able to make those deals. Does this ownership group have the ability to do that? And that's what changes the game a little bit when it comes to James Jones. It's all well and good if you want to operate like the big dogs, but do you have the mindset of those big dogs, and do you have the resources of those big dogs? And I would argue that you do not right now, currently as it sits. Fuck, we're literally talking about we might trade Cam Johnson. Now, I know this was a kind of an erroneous report, but if that was even remotely true, that the thought was to trade Cam Johnson to save money so they could pay DA, what in the fuck are we doing? And also Joe Johnson. Like, Joe Johnson's also a case of that. Like, they just didn't want to pay him. Like, so these are the things that you have to compete with, as opposed to what the Miami Heats and the LA Lakers of the world have to compete with.
And it's also reputation that you're competing against as well, because even though you say you've changed, how many people genuinely believe you've changed?
I think they look at the front, they look at James Jones, they look at Monty Williams, they look at CP3 Book, and they have players have a level of trust in that.
Yeah,
but more than it's ever been with this ownership. But is it enough? I don't know. That's the big question we have to find out, because I don't think it's the flaw. I don't think James Jones' plan is the flaw. It's, can he execute based on these factors that we're talking about? And is one of those factors going to be a big part of it for the long run, or is somebody else coming in? That's another shoe that has to drop this offseason that changes all of that. I'll
tell you what, and this is the slippery slope that James Jones is on. We're talking about we're not drafting draft picks because you don't find value in it. But then let's just say, devil's advocate, let's say DA does find another team to go play on, right? And you had him in the fold. You could have paid him his money and you could have kept him, but you didn't, and you let him go. Here's the risk you're taking. If DA goes somewhere else and he absolutely balls out and he's exactly what we hoped he would have been here, then now you've put yourself in another corner that you don't trust players, or you don't think that your development team is good enough to get the most out of other players that maybe are in that threshold to where you have an opportunity to go get them, because James Jones is basically saying he wants more of a sure thing instead of the draft picks. So down the road, he might go after somebody who has like a DA instead of being the one that's giving up a DA, and you have to hit on those. So if you don't want to pay DA now and he leaves and he succeeds, other players around the league will also look at that and be like, what the fuck was Phoenix thinking letting DA go? That's crazy.
Well, and I think this is a blind spot for Jones, right? I don't have any inside info on this, but my guess is he may have been one of the voices in the room that wanted Luka, right? Because he was in that room during that draft. McDonough made the pick, but James Jones was in there. We've seen how when people dig in that I was right about something and they can't get past that, right? Maybe that's part of what's going on here, and it's a blind spot when it comes to DA for James Jones. I don't know. There's a human element that comes into all this that makes it real easy to screw up a great plan if you take a few missteps because of ego or other reasons too. There's all sorts of things that come into play with this.
I had something I was going to say when you brought up the DA thing, but now I can't remember.
Oh, sorry. I do want to address one other thing in the chat real quick. OTDA says he's a Pacers fan, but basketball lover. Do y'all entertain or flat out agree to a Myles Turner at number 6 for DA? I can ask you that in 2 words. Fuck no.
Look, if this trade had been at the deadline and it was Sabonis in number 6 or Sabonis in their pick, knowing what I know now, I probably pull that.
Oh, hell no. Sabonis is so overrated.
You know what's going to be so funny is tomorrow when we're on our live draft show and James Jones trades into the draft, like in the top 10.
But
I'm going to laugh my butt off.
But that's the other thing. He's not saying he won't draft.
Oh, I know. I'm just saying, like, with the timing of this article being the day before the draft and them being like, hey, like, yeah, the draft is cool. It's just not our number one thing. And then all of a sudden they're in the top 10 tomorrow. I'm going to laugh my butt off. It's going to be hilarious.
But that would mean one of their 6 guys on their micro board are there.
I guess so.
One of those guys they love.
Okay, so a lot of people in the chat are saying Flex tweeted, "What's with Flex's tweet?"
Yeah.
It's
I don't know
nothing.
what it is.
It's a
It-
gif
don't know
of
what
a
it
guy
means.
looking through a fence, kind of smiling.
Yeah, but it's I think Kyrie Irving had tweeted that same thing earlier today.
Oh, he did?
And so Flex, I think, is either implying that Kyrie is up to something, which could ultimately lead to KD, or what. I would love to hear what the chat thinks that this means, because everybody's been.
What do
Kind of
you
tweeting.
guys think? Give us your best theories on what this tweet
Are you really
means.
asking me? You know what I think. I mean,
We all know.
Kyrie's on the move, which means KD's on the move, baby. He's coming to the Suns. Let's go. Hey, Bumbaclat, come over here and smoke all the weed you want, man.
I was asking more the chat because I did know exactly what you were saying.
Okay. OGs. It's all just an ad for OGs. Look, we're going to be so disappointed when KD gets traded somewhere else. We're going to go through all this.
Listen, if KD gets traded at all, then I very much am going to be pissed. Like, I am going to hedge my bets that KD is not going to go anywhere, but you never
That's
know.
what you're actually putting your money on?
No, he's coming to the Suns. But if I had to say another option, he's going to stay in the.
Can
with
you
the
talk
Nets.
to your friends at DraftKings and get them to put the odds on this?
Oh, hell yeah!
I think we need
Katie
that.
and DA were putting all of our
Let's
money
go.
on their
Let's go.
next landing spot. How exciting.
Listen, Sunsdom. I just made up a word. Is very much trying to manifest this, and I will be the flag bearer for this cause. I promise you.
I mean, I'm not mad at it.
I'm gonna actually make
I
that a
hope your
shirt.
manifestation works.
So
I really
can be
do.
your hero, baby.
All right, it's time for some screenshots presented by Arizona Department of Health Services. COVID-19 vaccines are free for everyone 5 and older. Those 12 and older are also now eligible for a booster. Visit azhealth.gov/find vaccine for a location near you. First up, we got a lighthearted screenshot for you guys. This was posted by the Phoenix Suns. Bismack Biyombo met with the Pope to talk about the Bismack Biyombo Foundation and humanitarian efforts benefiting people in the Democratic Republic of Congo. And Bismack said, just being able to be in the presence of the Pope, I think it's a blessing.
This now means the first day of free agency at midnight, I'm at Bismack Biyombo's house offering him a deal because you need all the good luck or juju or whatever you want to call it that you can get. And he now met the Pope, and some people believe that's a big deal and a good sign. So bring him back. We need all the luck we can get.
I mean, for me, this is just, I think it's a nice little post, and I'm very proud of Bismack Biyombo for all of his efforts that he's doing within his charities and, you know, like the hospital that he donated his entire salary to this year. I just kudos to that man because he's doing important work, and that's a positive. Somebody's got to do it.
Sorry, I'm very much distracted by a tweet by Mark Gunnels.
What is it?
It says, "Don't be surprised if KD ends up in Phoenix to form a big three with CP3 and Book."
Who tweeted? Who tweeted?
Let's
Mark
go.
Gunnels.
Who's that?
He is a Lakers guy, Lakers Nation betting expert.
Oh.
Betting expert.
Okay. So now the bettors are the new
I'm
Wojs.
telling you.
All right.
Okay, I'm talking to DraftKings tonight. We're gonna get some odds.
I want to see it. I want to know.
I mean, let's do it. Okay, our next AZ Health screenshot from John Gambadoro said, "It is that time of year, and you are seeing a boatload of rumors regarding the Suns and trades. I would say rule out anything in which you see Malcolm Brogdon or John Collins coming to Phoenix."
Yeah, and we had talked about it. The John Collins thing we didn't think was a fit, so that makes sense. And I'm sure the Malcolm Brogdon piece of this is they're afraid of the injuries. We talked about that on Trade Machine Tuesday yesterday, that there is that injury question. And if you just don't feel the medicals line up, you're not going to pay a guy $22 million. So I'm sure that's part of it. But if they wind up with Eric Gordon instead of Malcolm Brogdon and spending that same kind of money, I might have some feels about it if it happens.
The way I kind of take this is just that, it's I don't know. It's kind of just whatever. Like Malcolm Brogdon, the whole thing with Malcolm Brogdon, I didn't really see that anywhere necessarily. I actually thought that it was just a smart move.
Yes.
Like if the Suns were going to go after a particular player, why not Malcolm Brogdon? He seems to fit the mold of what they like. So go after some sensible guys that might be gettable. And I know Malcolm Brogdon is gettable right now, and the Pacers have said so along with Myles Turner. So why not? But all these listen, they're all rumors until they're not. So. Gambo's shot down millions of things before, and some of them have actually come to fruition, and they've actually been confirmed, and they happen. So he's not 100% on everything, but for the most part, he's right.
Eugenius in the chat says, doesn't free agency start at 3 p.m. Eastern on July 1st? Yes, you're right. They did change that. I used to love where all these front office people were showing up at people's doors at midnight. It was much, much more entertaining, but now they've made it more TV friendly so they can talk about it.
Because you got to make money off of it.
Exactly.
You can't make money if everyone's asleep.
Det Nibble in the chat says, Brogdon doesn't fit our timeline. He's pushing 30. The timeline does not exist anymore. The timeline existed before James Jones era.
You have a 37-year-old point guard. This guy's like young compared to that.
Yeah.
Like
he's a baby.
Welcome to the new timeline.
I'm just a baby.
The
You
new
guys seen that
timeline. Ooh,
video?
I like that. No,
It's funny.
I remember the trade machine Tuesday. Trade
machine
Girthquake
Tuesday.
said he just saw Katie at Cobra Arcade. So there you go.
Telling you.
Apparently he likes video games as well. Come on, Katie. You
Um,
got everything here that you need.
I need some expansion on this because we need because it's Lindsay shirts.
Yeah, I
Saul?
don't. What was that?
Didn't you say that with the draft stuff?
What
Because
is
it's
that?
Lindsay that people just vote.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that's where it's
true.
coming from.
Okay.
When we do
okay.
the
that's
snake
right.
draft, because it's Lindsay, she's gonna win.
Yeah,
Gotcha. Okay.
I'm not mad at that.
All right.
I'm
Yeah,
not
nobody
mad at that.
needs
Ryan
that
wants to know
shirt.
what shoes you're wearing.
Oh yeah, I'm wearing the Steph Curry white nursing shoes.
Nursing shoes?
Yeah, that's what everybody made fun of them when they first came out. So
Well, I mean, I get that, but they are clean. I like them.
They're really comfortable. So
That's a positive.
because they're nursing shoes.
All right, gentlemen, any final thoughts on all of these things?
Not really.
No.
Okay, cool. We're
I
gonna
love when
be-
you ask that because we're usually like, no, we're
I
good.
know. I should never ask it unless Gerald's here because Gerald always has final thoughts. Just a reminder, we're going to be hanging out tomorrow for the draft party. And if you want to come join us, tune in 4:45, same place as always. I highly recommend stopping at a grocery store or heading down to the Four Peaks Brewery and picking up some Four Peaks beers so that you can enjoy them while we all kind of
We're gonna.
have a good time throughout this draft, because it's going to be a good amount of time. We're looking at like 4 or 5 hours of just hanging out and talking basketball and all the things. So
We're gonna have food. We're gonna have fun. We're gonna have games. We're gonna have insanity.
Yeah.
I guarantee some dumb move gets made that we're all shocked by. Not by the Suns necessarily, just in general
somebody.
that we laugh at.
yeah.
You know, we'll even if we'll bring up all the memes that are going on social. We're gonna have a good time tomorrow.
It is. So definitely grab some Four Peaks beer and then settle in and come hang out with us tomorrow. Also, just grab some Four Peaks beer just because it's that delightful.
Because it's delicious.
Exactly. So just remember to be 21 or older and enjoy responsibly. Also, didn't you mention earlier in the show, or maybe we didn't, we're having a draft party for the Coyotes.
Oh, yes.
At Four Peaks
Absolutely.
Brewery, right?
Absolutely.
And that's
July 7th.
Yeah, right
Mhm.
around the corner, July 7th. So our whole entire Coyotes crew will be out there.
2 weeks from tomorrow.
It'll be a lot of fun. We're going to be in Vegas. That's the day we head out to Vegas for Summer
You
League.
guys will be. I'll be at
That's
the draft
true.
party.
Jesus, this guy.
Hey,
Well,
I'm, gonna
I'm
hang out with
literally
my
flying him
cousins.
out that night so he can come join us in Vegas.
I'm not crying. I'm actually excited to be at the draft.
You should be
party.
excited to be at
I
the
love
draft
our
party.
Coyotes
There
people.
you go.
I'm there to support them while you
There
guys
you go.
jaunt off to
This-
party in Vegas.
Jesus, a party in Vegas. We're not going to work at all.
Says
No.
the guy who gets to fly while we'll have to drive.
Right?
Yeah, well, you know, boo freaking who.
Jesus, though. Shush. Emma, mute his mic. Mute his mic.
Emma, you do it.
She
You do it, we
muted
have
him.
some problems.
Yes. I love you, Emma. You've redeemed some things after that horrendous video.
Do we
from
have that
yesterday.
video? I really wish we could just play
You
that
know
video.
what video we should play, though? If you guys haven't seen it, go to Josh Hunt's Twitter because
Yes, that
I'm
was
not even kidding.
fantastic.
That made me laugh.
We'll play it on the draft
so
show
hard. And you got to watch to the very end, because the first time I didn't watch the very end.
I think we have
And then
it.
the second time I watched the very end, and I was like, okay.
I think Emma's
Very
getting
clever.
it. Maybe we should play it if we find it.
If we don't play it today, we'll play it definitely on the.
Yeah,
on the
we'll
draft show
play it tomorrow
tomorrow.
because we're done. We don't have anything else.
We're gonna have
to
a lot
talk
of
about.
time to kill tomorrow, so
Facts.
we'll show Josh's video.
Thank you guys for tuning in. We appreciate you as always. Until tomorrow, you can follow me on Twitter at LindsaySmithAZ. You can follow Saul at Saul_Bookman. And of course, you can follow Espo at Espo.
Oh, I thought you until tomorrow you can follow me at this, like you were going to change your handle or something.
No, it's more like until we see you
We'll
next
see you
time.
again.
You can follow me.
Gotcha.
Is this another next season, this season debate here that Saul doesn't understand?
Ay vey. Espo, take us home.
I don't even know what to say when Bookman does that kind of thing. Ahoy, hoy.